The auction block hummed with alien voices, a cacophony of clicks, whistles, and electronic translations that made Elsa's skin crawl. She stood among the crowd of various species, her human features drawing suspicious glances from the Zephyrians, with their crystalline skin and the hulking Mordecai traders. But she didn't care about their stares. Her eyes were fixed on the platform where prisoners were being sold like livestock. James hung in electromagnetic shackles, his head bowed but not broken. Even after 3 months of captivity aboard the hegemony ship, he still carried himself with that stubborn human pride that had made him legendary among the resistance fighters. His dark hair was matted, his clothes torn, but when he lifted his head and scanned the crowd, his eyes burned with defiance. "Lot 347, announced the auctioneer, a spindly Veltar whose voice box crackled through the translation matrix. "Human male, aged 28 standard cycles, combat trained, recommended for mining operations or gladiatorial entertainment." Elsa's jaw clenched. They spoke of him like he was equipment, not the man who had saved her life on Europa Station, not the soldier who had held the line when everyone else retreated, not the person who had looked into her eyes the night before his capture and whispered words that still echoed in her dreams. Opening bid. 5,000 galactic credits, the auctioneer continued. A Mordecai raised a massive claw. 5,000. 6,000, called out a Zephyrian merchant, its crystalline face gleaming under the harsh lights. Elsa's hand trembled as she checked her credit balance one more time. She had liquidated everything, her ship, her weapons, even her grandmother's. Engagement ring from old Earth. 37,000 credits, it had to be enough. 10,000, she called out, her voice cutting through the alien chatter. The crowd turned to stare at her, and she felt their collective surprise. Humans buying other humans was unusual in the Outer Rim markets. Most species assumed they were all primitives barely worth the cost of their shackles. 15,000, countered the Zephyrian, its faceted eyes glittering with interest. James's head snapped up at the sound of Elsa's voice. Their eyes met across the crowded auction house, and she saw something flicker in his expression. Hope, fear, love, all warring together. He mouthed her name silently, shaking his head as if to say she shouldn't be there. But she had crossed 3 star systems and sold her soul to get here. She wasn't leaving without him. 20,000, she bid. 25, came the immediate response from a new bidder, a hegemony official in the back, his reptilian features cold and calculating. Elsa's heart sank. The hegemony wanted James back, which meant the price would skyrocket beyond her reach. But then she noticed something. Other humans in the crowd, faces she recognized from the resistance networks. Word had spread. They were pooling their resources, making subtle signals. 30,000, she called, knowing she was nearly tapped out. 40,000, the hegemony official responded without hesitation. The auction house fell silent. That was serious money, even in the Outer Rim markets. Elsa felt despair creeping, and until she noticed movement in the crowd. A grizzled human spacer pressed a credit chip into her palm. Then another. A young woman with cybernetic implants added her own small contribution. 50,000, Elsa announced, her voice steady despite the chaos in her heart. The hegemony official's eyes narrowed. 75,000. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. This was becoming a spectacle, humans defying the galactic order, pooling their meager resources to save one of their own. More credit chips found their way to Elsa, dozens of humans contributing whatever they could spare. 100,000, she said, the words barely audible. The auctioneer's eye stalk swiveled between the bidders. The hegemony official was conferring with his subordinates, calculating whether one human soldier was worth bankrupting a regional budget. 150,000, the official finally said, his voice dripping with disdain. Elsa felt the weight of defeat settling on her shoulders. She had nothing left. The other humans had given everything they could. She looked up at James, memorizing his face, trying to convey everything she couldn't say. That's when the unexpected happened. 200,000, called a new voice from the back of the auction house. Everyone turned to see a figure in expensive robes, a Veltar merchant prince, one of the wealthiest beings in the sector. But as he approached, Elsa saw something that made her gasp. Hidden beneath his robes was a small pendant, barely visible, a resistance symbol. The merchant's translated voice carried across the silent auction house. I find myself curious about human resilience, an investment in genetic diversity, you understand? The hegemony official's face contorted with rage, but even they wouldn't dare outbid a Veltar prince. The hammer fell with finality. Sold to His Excellence Morden Velshakti for 200,000 galactic credits. As the crowd dispersed, the Veltar prince approached Elsa. Up close she could see the intelligence in his compound eyes, the careful way he moved to avoid drawing attention. Your species fascinates me, he said quietly and unaccented standard. The way you risk everything for each other, the way you refuse to accept defeat. It's inspiring. He pressed a data pad into her hands. These are the coordinates to a safe house on Kepler 442b. Your friend will be there within the day, along with transportation off-world. Consider it an investment in the future. As James was led away, he looked back one final time. Even from across the auction house, Elsa could read his lips. Thank you. She had been prepared to pay any price for him. Instead, she had discovered something even more valuable, that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in their individual power, but in their willingness to stand together when it mattered most. In a galaxy that saw them as primitive and expendable, they had just proven that love and loyalty were forces no empire could truly control. The resistance lived on, one rescued soldier at a time.